Hey guys, tonight we begin with the ash-covered skin and blistered hands of the ancient Mesopotamian baker. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments what time it is for you and where you're tuning in from. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You live in the shadow of ziggurats, surrounded by sun-baked clay and the scent of smoke that never leaves your nostrils. The city wakes early, but you are earlier. Long before the priests begin their chants and merchants sweep their stalls, your hands are already plunged deep in dough, fingers raw from yesterday's grind. The floor beneath you is compacted earth, stained with years of spilt grain and sweat. You step over a rat carcass, already flattened into the dust, and begin the day's ritual. There is no water basin to wash in, only a cracked jug with last night's leftovers, slightly sour, but not yet full of worms. Outside, the wind scratches at the shutters like claws. It brings with it grit and heat, a constant whisper from the desert beyond the walls. The bakery is nothing more than a pit oven built into the ground, surrounded by crumbling bricks blackened with soot. Smoke snakes upward, curling around the ceiling beams, turning everything gray. Your skin is the same color now. No matter how many times you scrape it, the ash returns. It lives in your pores. There's a boy at the door, barefoot and silent. He hands you a basket of old grain. It's been ground on stone the way it always is, and you can already feel the sharpness of grit in your mouth just by looking at it. You nod. No one speaks. There's no time. You begin the mix. There's no measure, only memory. A handful of flour, a splash of the sour water, a pinch of old salt if you're lucky. Your arms ache as you knead. The dough resists at first, thick as clay, sticky as sweat. But you press and fold, until it gives. Not because it wants to, but because you have no other choice. The fire is hungry. It waits. You lean over the oven, face blistering from the heat, lashes singed. You don't flinch anymore. That passed years ago. The first time you burned yourself, you cried. Now you just breathe through the sting. The dough is flattened by hand, slapped against the inner walls of the oven where it sticks and cooks fast, blistering and bubbling before your eyes. There's no room for pause. The next ball of dough is ready, and the next. You don't count them anymore. Your back screams by midday. The heat never lessens. There's no shade, no fan, only the rhythm of breath and flame and the dull hum of the city stirring beyond the door. Children run past, yelling. You hear the thud of sandals and the shriek of donkeys. None of it matters. Your world is the oven, the flour, the blackened air that coats your lungs. You cough, but there's no point. Everyone does. Your father died with the same cough. Your brother, too. You wonder how long until it's your turn. But there's dough to bake, and time does not slow. A loaf falls too soon and cracks. You pick it up anyway. It's still food. Sort of. You brush it off. The ashes mix with the crust. It looks normal now. No one will notice. The stack grows, misshapen rounds of bread, some hard as tile, others still damp in the middle. But no one complains. Hunger makes everything edible. There is no pride here, only survival, only the scent of burnt flour and skin. And still the fire waits. The light filtering through the window is already thick with dust, making the room feel smaller, tighter. The smoke hangs lower now, clinging to your shoulders like a damp shawl. You can't remember the last time you saw a blue sky without it being veiled in soot. Somewhere outside, a priest's chant echoes faintly over the rooftops, but it's distant, muffled by the walls and your own pounding heart. You reach for the next sack of flour. It's lighter than it should be. The grain delivery was thin this week. Something about the river running low. You don't ask questions. You just make the bread stretch farther. Less flour, more water. A trickle of oil if the jars weren't empty. The loaves come out flatter, more bitter, but they're still warm, still heavy enough to quiet a stomach for a while. The apprentices arrive late, again. Boys with cracked heels and hollow eyes. They sleep on the floor of the mill house, sharing lice and damp blankets. You nod at them. No words. One begins grinding grain with the stone mill. The rhythm is slow, uneven. His hands are already blistered from the last 2 days, and the dust from the grinding hangs around his mouth like a ghost. He doesn't wear a scarf. You told him he should. He didn't listen. He coughs, and the sound is deep, wet. Not a good sign. But you look away. If he's still breathing, he can still work. The other boy is stoking the fire, jamming in whatever scraps of dried wood he can find. Old furniture sometimes, broken carts, anything that burns. The smell of the wood is sour and strange. Treated timber, maybe. It doesn't matter. The fire takes it all. It roars with brief life, then settles into a smoldering growl. You move quickly. The dough waits for no one. You shape it into discs, pressing with your thumbs, the skin on your fingers cracking from the salt and ash. There is no time for balm, no time for anything. You remember your mother's hands, bent, blackened, always moving. You thought they were strong. Now you know they were simply tired beyond speech. Outside, a woman calls out. She's come for bread. You gesture toward the stack. She counts out barley coins, rough-edged and smoothed from passing through too many hands. You don't check their value. You take them and hand her 2 loaves. She eyes the 3rd one. You shake your head. She sighs but says nothing. She'll be back tomorrow, or maybe not. Hunger makes even silence feel like betrayal. You pause to drink. The water is lukewarm, pulled from a clay jar that sweats in the heat. It tastes of dust and old pottery. Still, it eases your throat, only a little. A fly lands on your lip. You swat it away without thinking. The apprentices are both staring at the bread now. You know the look. You let them take one each, wordlessly. Payment for lungs they'll ruin before they're grown. 1 loaf falls into the ashes. Not a full burn, just the edge. You brush it off, then hesitate. You break it in half. Give a piece to the coughing boy. He doesn't smile, just eats quickly, crumbs falling onto his torn tunic. The rest you toss onto the stack. Someone will buy it. They always do. By late afternoon, your back is bent, your fingers locked in a curve. The kneading never stops. It stays in your muscles even after you sleep, if you sleep. The room smells of char and sweat and something older, something sour. The last of the dough is shaped and slapped into the oven. You watch it bake, eyes dry from the heat. There's a blister on your thumb. It burst an hour ago. You didn't notice until the blood crusted. The pain is dull now, manageable, like everything else. And still the fire waits. Evening begins without fanfare. No bells mark the change, just a slow dimming of the light that barely filters through the cracked walls, and the way your body begins to shake with fatigue you can no longer ignore. The last loaves are cooling on a reed mat near the wall. Their shapes are uneven, their crusts flecked with bits of coal. You know by now that no one cares. Buyers will scrape it off or swallow it whole. It's food, that's enough. You wipe your hands on your apron, though the cloth is more ash than fabric now. The soot doesn't come off. It's part of you. It coats your nails, lives in the lines of your knuckles, blackens your wrists like ink spilled under the skin. You sit on the edge of a broken crate, the wood splintered and threatening to split entirely. Your knees crack as you bend. Every joint feels swollen, filled with warm sand. The soles of your feet burn. You pull them up, rub one with your palm, but it's no use. The blisters are cracked. The skin beneath is wet and angry. Still, you'll be standing again soon. The fire needs to be banked. The floor needs to be swept. The unused grain has to be sealed from the rats. Always something. Never rest. The apprentices have gone, slipped out without a word, shadows disappearing down the alley toward their sleeping hole. You should scold them. But what's the point? They'll return in the morning, thin as fence rails, coughing up soot, and start again. Just like you did. Just like everyone does. No one chooses this life. It chooses you, wraps around your neck like the smoke, and never lets go. You light a small oil lamp, just enough to see the room fade into its corners. The shelves are bare now, only a few baskets left, each with a thin smear of flour clinging to the weave. You lean your head back against the wall. The bricks are warm from the day's heat, but not in a comforting way. They radiate exhaustion, as if the structure itself has grown weary of standing. Your mind drifts to your father. He was a baker too. You remember him bending over the same oven, a younger version of your own ache reflected in his movements. He died one winter, slipping on the icy stones outside the bakery, his spine crushed by the fall. They buried him in a shallow grave, wrapped in his work apron. You were told to keep baking. Customers would still come. And they did. Even as the oven cooled and his body stiffened in the cold soil, the fire had to be relit. You rise, groaning as your spine protests. You bank the fire carefully, pushing the coals into a mound with an iron rod. The ash shifts, glowing red at the center. A small pulse of heat against your face. You pile dry dung around it. Your only fuel now, dry and bitter-smelling. It will hold the ember through the night if you're lucky. If not, you'll be up before dawn, flint in hand, cursing the cold. Outside, the streets have gone quiet. Somewhere a baby wails. A dog barks once, then stops. The night in the city is never silent. It hums with the noise of poverty, restless, breathless, gnawing through the dark. You check the door, then pull the bolt across. Not for safety. There's nothing here worth stealing. Just habit. Just the echo of instructions given long ago by someone else now buried beneath the dust. You lie on the ground beside the wall, a rolled cloth beneath your head. No bed, no blanket. Just the faint warmth of the bricks and the sting in your lungs. You close your eyes. The inside of your eyelids glow orange from the fire. You think of nothing. That's the trick. Don't think, don't feel. Just breathe in the smoke, hold it, and let it settle in your chest like a stone. The fire sleeps. And so do you. Kind of. The morning arrives not with light, but with a smell. A sharp sting of urine and old bread crusts baked into the air that seeps through the cracks in the shutter. Your eyes open slowly. There is no waking gently, no comfort. Just the familiar ache, the dry throat, the taste of smoke clinging to the roof of your mouth like ash paste. You push yourself up, arms trembling under your weight. Your hair is stiff with sweat from yesterday's heat, and your tunic is stuck to your skin in the places where the fabric has melted into your sweat. You don't undress. You haven't undressed in weeks, not in this space. Not when the wind carries grit through every crevice. The dust gets into everything. Skin, lungs, bread, even dreams. You move slowly at first. Your legs need time. They bend reluctantly, swollen at the knees. There's a bruise blooming along your shin, though you don't remember when you hit it. Probably the oven, maybe a crate. It doesn't matter. Nothing does, really, except the dough, and the fire, and the sacks of grain that must be hauled back from the storage pit before the rats find them first. You stretch a hand toward the jug of water in the corner. The surface is still, oily with dust, but drinkable. You take a mouthful and swish, then swallow. The taste is moldy, but it's wet. That's enough. Outside, the air is still cool, a rare mercy. You drag a sack from the dark storeroom, grunting as the weight presses into your spine like a stone knife. The rope burns your palms. You blink through the pain. The sack splits slightly at the edge, a line of barley falling in small, dry whispers onto the floor. You'll sweep it later, or you won't. You open the sack, scoop out the first measure of grain into the mill tray. There's no one to help today. The apprentices haven't come. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they left. You don't care. The stones still need to turn. You sit, feet braced, and begin to grind. The sound is harsh and familiar. Grain rasping against stone, punctuated by the occasional pop of a pebble hidden in the barley. That's the worst part. The grit. It gets through everything. You try to pick it out, but it hides in the flour, only revealing itself when someone bites down and chips a tooth. You've done it yourself. The jagged edge still scrapes your tongue when you talk. You rarely talk anymore. The flour is pale, clumped with humidity. You mix it with water slowly, hand over hand, wrist deep in paste. Your hands sting as the salt from your sweat finds the cracks in your skin. You knead until the dough softens, then divide it into balls, pressing them flat with trembling fingers. The oven hasn't been lit yet. You forgot. Or rather, your body did. Your mind is still catching up. You crouch beside the fire pit, push away the gray ash, and uncover the buried embers. Cold. You curse under your breath. You strike flint against stone. Once. Twice. Sparks dance and die. Again. Your fingers fumble. They're stiff. The skin splits again along your thumb. Blood seeps dark and slow. You press it against your tunic and keep going. A spark catches. You cradle it like breath, feeding it dried rushes, twigs, then dung. The flame grows reluctantly, as tired as you are. But it grows. It has to. You slap the first dough rounds onto the wall of the oven. They hiss as they hit the heat. You crouch there, smoke filling your eyes, your throat. The bread cooks quickly, too quickly. One side burns. You scrape it off. It's still food. You keep going. There is no pause, no break, no voice saying, enough. Only the smoke, the bread, and the sound of your own breath catching in your chest like a dying bellows. And the day has only just begun. The first buyer arrives before you're ready. A boy no older than 10, barefoot, shoulders thin beneath a woven tunic so faded it's become the same color as the dust. He doesn't speak, just holds out a piece of worn string with 4 beads on it. Tokens, payment. You don't ask where he got them. You take 2, hand him a small round loaf still warm from the wall. He grabs it quickly, presses it to his chest like a secret, and runs. You watch the trail of his feet vanish in the dust and wonder if he eats alone or has smaller mouths waiting behind a reed door somewhere deeper in the slums. You continue working, your movements mechanical. You flatten dough, press it against the oven wall, wait, remove it with a blackened stick, slap down the next. You don't look at the bread anymore. It doesn't matter how it looks, just that it's solid, that it doesn't fall apart, that it sells. Your hands do their work without thinking. It's your back that complains. A dull pinch above your hips that flares each time you bend. You try not to notice. You keep your eyes on the coals, watching their red cores pulse with life that doesn't belong to you. Outside, the sun has climbed higher and with it the heat. The bakery swells with it, the air thick and unmoving. The walls themselves sweat. You peel the collar of your tunic from your neck and wipe your brow, though the relief is temporary. Sweat runs down your back, soaks the cloth between your legs. The flies are relentless. You swat one from your cheek. Another lands near your lip. You taste its dirt on your tongue before you spit. Another customer arrives. This one older, hunched, with a crooked staff and eyes that blink against the sun. She doesn't speak either. She just nods at the bread, sets down a cracked ceramic jar, and waits. You glance inside. It's oil, probably pressed from spoiled olives, cloudy and smelling faintly of rot. But it's trade. You lift 2 loaves, smaller than usual, and place them into her cloth. She turns and walks away without thanks. You don't expect any. This isn't kindness, it's economy. You sit on the edge of the stone bin, elbows on your knees. Your hands hang limp between your legs. The tips of your fingers have gone numb. Not all the time, just enough to worry you. They pulse occasionally, a slow throb like something beneath the skin trying to crawl out. You flex them, feel the stiffness in your knuckles, and reach for the jug. It's nearly empty. You sip what's left, warm, foul, better than nothing. Behind you, the bread pile is shrinking. That's good. It means you'll make enough today to buy more grain, maybe even salt if the market hasn't dried up. You think about what that means. More flour, more kneading, more sweat, more fire. The same again tomorrow, and the day after that. Your life, measured in sacks and embers, burns away loaf by loaf. You stand again, slowly. The next batch is ready. You slap the rounds against the oven wall, smoke curling around your arm like a warning. One piece sticks too long, blackens before you can reach it. You pull it out anyway. Brush off the worst. It'll pass. Everything passes. You turn back to the dough, dusting your palms on your thighs, though it only spreads the grime. The light shifts. You realize the day has turned, the sun beginning its descent, shadows stretching long across the clay floor. You look down and see yours, thin, bent, broken across the wall like an old man's spine. You don't remember when you started to stoop. Maybe it was always like that. Maybe you were born leaning forward, braced against the heat. Either way, the fire doesn't care. It waits. It always waits. The afternoon deepens and the color of the light turns dull, almost copper. It slants through the gaps in the ceiling and turns the smoke into gold ribbons that dance just out of reach. You do not look up. The roof is unstable, patched with dried reeds and broken pottery. A single strong wind would tear it open. You've repaired it with string and clay so many times it no longer holds shape. But no one inspects your ceiling. They only care about the bread and whether it is warm when they get it, whether it will last until tomorrow. Your eyes burn from the smoke. You rub them with your wrist, but the sweat stings more. A loaf crumbles as you lift it from the oven. It was too thin, too rushed. You pick it apart in your hands, toss the pieces into a jar where you keep the broken ones. Maybe someone will buy them for soup. Maybe not. You never throw anything away. Even the scraps carry the weight of labor. A sharp sound breaks the monotony. A stone striking the side of the wall. A boy, older this time, stands outside with a sack over his shoulder. He gestures for you to come. You hesitate. There's more dough to press. But the sack might be grain, and if it's grain, you can't afford to wait. You step into the sunlight, blinking. It blinds you. Your skin immediately protests, prickling under the heat. The boy says nothing, just drops the sack at your feet and holds out his palm. You open a jar of salted roots, half-rotted but still tradable, and place a few inside his hand. He seems disappointed but doesn't argue. He walks away. You drag the sack into the bakery, grunting under the strain. Inside, the oven has cooled slightly. The fire slumps. You grab the poker and stir it, coaxing the red back into flame. The heat answers slowly, reluctant like everything else in this place. You feed it more scraps, a bit of dried husk, some paper-thin bark, whatever burns. The flames rise. You return to the dough, now soft and slightly over-rested. It sticks more now, pulling at your fingers like glue. You shape it with care, pressing gently, your hands trembling. A woman enters. Her face is covered. You know her by the limp. She doesn't speak. She never does. She leaves a bone charm on the counter, her own kind of currency. You slide a loaf toward her. She wraps it in a cloth, nods once, and is gone. You hold the charm in your hand. It's smooth, worn by fingers, likely carved from a child's toy or an animal's rib. It means nothing to anyone but her. You put it on the shelf with the others, relics of barter too personal to refuse. The day wanes. You feel it in your bones before you see it in the sky. The ache has moved into your shoulders, your neck, the base of your skull. The inside of your mouth tastes like ash. You can't remember when you last ate. Maybe yesterday, maybe longer. You pull a broken crust from the jar and bite. It's hard, dry. It scratches going down. But it fills something inside you. Not hunger exactly, more the void where it lives. The fire pops, sending a spray of sparks across the stone. You jump, more from instinct than fear. The heat has curled the edge of your apron. You slap it out with your hand. The pain blooms, then fades. You barely notice. You crouch and stir the coals again. The flames hiss and lean back toward you like they recognize you now. You've been here since before the sun rose. You'll be here after it dies. And still the fire waits. As dusk creeps in, the shadows stretch longer, twisting across the floor like reaching fingers. The air cools slightly, but not enough to matter. The heat from the oven has baked the room into a clay bowl of stale warmth. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, trying to ease the pressure on your heels. It doesn't help. The pain isn't sharp anymore. It's settled, constant, like something that has unpacked its belongings and decided to live inside your bones. You finish shaping the last round of dough. The pile beside you is lower than usual. The grain from earlier wasn't as much as you'd hoped. The flour was thin, and your hands trembled more than they should have. You flatten the round carefully, press it with your thumb, and slap it against the hot inner wall of the oven. It sticks with a hiss. You don't watch it bake. You've seen thousands of loaves rise and burn. You know the sound, the smell, the timing. You move to sweep the floor instead, dragging a bundle of stiff reeds across the dirt. It raises more dust than it gathers. The sound of sandals outside makes you pause. Another customer? At this hour? The door creaks as it opens. A man steps in, tall, wrapped in linen. His beard is gray and his eyes are wet with something that might be sadness or sickness. He doesn't speak, just lowers himself to the ground with a groan and rests his back against the wall. You watch him for a moment, then walk to the stack and break one of the better loaves in half. You offer it to him wordlessly. He takes it, bows his head, eats with slow, careful movements, like each bite must be chewed into memory. You return to your work, scrubbing the counter with a cloth that's mostly holes. You hum something, but the sound dies in your throat. Talking feels strange now, even humming. The fire pops again. You flinch again. The man doesn't move. He finishes eating and sets the crust beside him, unfinished. Then he stands and walks out without looking back. You listen to his sandals fade into silence. You take the uneaten crust and set it beside your own. Maybe later. Maybe not. Hunger isn't always about food anymore. Sometimes it's just the habit of holding something in your hand, pretending it matters. You look down at your fingers. The tips are cracked. One nail is black from bruising, another has split straight through the middle. You touch it. It stings. You smile, barely. At least it reminds you you're still here. You lift a bucket of water and pour it slowly onto the stone rim of the oven. The sizzle fills the room, a sound almost like music if you listen from far enough away. Steam rises, clinging to the ceiling beams, then disappears. You do it again. The oven cools this way, slowly, unevenly, but enough that you won't burn your arm in the dark. You don't want another blister, not yet, not tonight. You sit, finally. Your knees creak, your spine cracks. You rest your head against the wall and let your eyes close for just a moment. The room is still. The fire flickers softly. Outside, the wind carries the smell of the river, stale, muddy, distant. You don't remember the last time you saw it. You don't remember the last time you left this room. You think of your mother. Her hands were harder than yours, her silence louder. She used to say nothing before sleep, just sat, eyes on the fire, hands folded like stone. You used to wonder what she thought about. Now you know. She was thinking of tomorrow, of more grain, more kneading, more aching joints and burnt loaves. You open your eyes. The fire has dimmed, but it's not gone. You rise again, because it never ends, and still the fire waits. The night deepens with a thickness that presses against your skin. The outside world fades, but inside the bakery the warmth clings like a second garment. Your shirt is soaked through, stiff with old sweat that never had a chance to dry. The coals in the oven glow low and steady, casting faint shapes on the walls. You move without sound now, each step softened by habit. You gather the unused flour and place it back into the jar, sealing it with a cloth and knot of twine. The jar is chipped. One more drop and it will crack entirely. Like everything else, it's holding on out of sheer familiarity. The crumbs are swept into a pan. You don't throw them away. Some customer tomorrow might offer you a sliver of cheese or a few olives in exchange for the leavings. You've seen men chew crumbs as if they were luxury. You've done it yourself. In your stomach, hunger has settled like a cold stone. Not the urgent pangs of earlier days, but a dull constant, like fog that refuses to lift. You move toward the sleeping mat you keep beneath the shelf. It's more a suggestion of rest than an actual space. A thin layer of straw inside a brittle cloth sack, long since flattened to the density of bark. You lie down slowly, knees bent, back curved to fit the uneven floor. The bricks beside you still radiate heat from the oven. They warm one side of your body while the other chills. You pull your knees tighter, trying to balance the discomfort. It never works, but you do it anyway. Your eyes close, but sleep doesn't come easily. The noises of the bakery linger. The crackle of the last coal, the creak of wood settling, the soft scuttling of something small near the grain jar. A mouse, maybe, or a rat. You keep your hand near the broomstick just in case. You once woke to one chewing on your toes. It didn't run when you kicked, just blinked at you and kept chewing. You were too tired to fight it. You drift, but never deeply. Your thoughts move slowly, like dough left too long in the bowl. You remember things that don't help. The sound of your sister laughing before she died in the summer fever. The way your mother used to press your face to her stomach when storms came. The taste of real honey once, when a merchant dropped a jar and you licked the shards. You remember too much and too little all at once. You wake to the sound of your own breathing. It's shallow, ragged. A cough rises, dry and tight, and you sit up quickly to keep from choking. Your chest aches. You spit onto the floor, a black streak. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve, another stain to join the others. You reach for the jug. It's empty. You shake it anyway. Habit. You set it down with a soft thud and let your head lean back against the wall. The fire is nearly out. A few coals wink red beneath the ash. You crawl over, hands dragging, and bank them carefully. You add a handful of straw, whispering encouragement like it might help. It doesn't. But the flame licks back to life anyway, pale and stubborn. It lights your face in flickers. You watch it until your vision blurs. Your body wants to lie down again, but you know better. Too many nights lying down becomes too many mornings not waking up. You sit, knees pulled to your chest, arms around your legs. The fire pulses behind your eyes like a memory. You breathe in the warm, bitter air and feel it fill your chest. The bakery is quiet. Nothing moves. And still the fire waits. Dawn arrives with no beauty, only obligation. The sky outside turns from black to ash gray, and the city stirs again. Not with bird song or light chatter, but with coughs, with carts creaking over stone, with the low groan of doors opening on swollen hinges. You feel it before you see it, the weight of another day pressing down before it even begins. You haven't slept, not truly, only drifted in and out, eyelids fluttering in the heat. Your legs are numb. Your mouth tastes like old iron. The jug is still empty. You stand slowly, joints resisting, spine folding inward before stretching upward with effort. Your knees tremble. You brace a hand against the wall and wait for your vision to clear. It does, eventually. The fire is almost dead, a soft red glow beneath a dusting of gray ash, like a tired eye barely open. You feed it with the last of the dry rushes. They catch. The flame returns. You blow on it gently, watching it grow, feeling the heat on your face like a slap. The grain sack is nearly empty. You shake the last of it into the stone bowl, listening to the faint rattle of barley mixed with stones. You sigh, reach for the grinding stone, and begin the day's first task. Your hands move automatically. They always do. Round and round, stone against stone. The rhythm is almost soothing if you don't think too hard about the pain in your wrists, or the fact that your right hand has started to lock when clenched too long. Flour rises in pale clouds, settles on your lashes. You blink it away. Your nose itches, but your hands are busy. You don't stop. You press your knee against the side of the grinder for balance. The stone is warm from yesterday. It never fully cools. The dust clings to your arms, your neck. You inhale it without noticing. You mix the flour with water that has sat overnight in a basin by the oven. The surface film is cloudy. You skim it with your palm and stir. The dough forms slowly, lumpy at first, resistant. You press and knead, press and knead. Your fingers cramp. You switch hands. You bite your lip. The dough softens, spreads beneath your palms. You shape it into rough rounds and let it rest. The surface cracks slightly as it dries. There's a sound at the door, a knock, not loud but deliberate. You wipe your hands and open it. A girl stands there, small, thin, wrapped in a shawl too large for her body. She holds a tiny bowl. Inside, a single fish bone and a bit of dried onion skin. You nod, take the bowl, offer her a small loaf in return. She stares at it like it's gold. Then she runs. You close the door. You don't eat. Not yet. The oven must be hot. You lift the lid of the cold chamber and stir it. Flames lick up. The heat pulses. You press the dough rounds flat, then one by one, slap them to the oven wall. The hiss is loud in the quiet. You crouch there, watching them swell and blister, timing each one by instinct. A minute too long and they burn. A second too early and they collapse. You pull them free with a charred stick. Stack them on the mat. The smell fills the room. Smoke, flour, heat, survival. Your eyes sting. You don't wipe them. You press another round to the wall, then another. The motion continues. Your body remembers, even when your mind forgets, even when your breath catches and your vision fades. The fire grows, and still the fire waits. By mid-morning, the room is full of steam and smoke. The loaves cool in uneven piles, edges dark, some split open from the heat, revealing crumb too dense to be soft. You do not apologize for their imperfection. No one expects beauty from bread. Only mass, only weight, only warmth. The crust may tear the mouth, but that's better than nothing. The buyers begin to appear, slowly, as if emerging from the cracks in the city itself. They carry jars, worn cloth sacks, chipped pottery, broken combs, old copper pins. They hand you pieces of their lives in exchange for food. A man offers a loop of twine and a goat's tooth charm. You hand him 2 loaves. He nods, doesn't smile. None of them smile. There is no joy in this place, only the brittle routine of survival. The next woman smells of river water and fish. Her fingers are webbed with salt cracks, her nails worn to soft crescents. She brings 2 tiny fish, eyes already gray, and asks with a glance for something to eat. You give her 3 burnt loaves from yesterday. She accepts them like a favor, though it isn't one. It's just what's left. You sit again. Your legs feel swollen. You haven't relieved yourself since yesterday. Your stomach coils with the pressure, but you know what waits outside. The trench beyond the alley, half filled with flies and worse. You decide to wait, not out of pride, but because your energy is limited now. Each motion is weighed, each step measured. You tear a piece of crust from a cracked loaf and chew slowly. Your teeth throb. The left side of your jaw no longer closes all the way. You suspect an abscess. You touch your cheek. It's tender. You spit blood into your hand and wipe it on your apron. A boy knocks on the doorpost and enters without waiting. He's the older apprentice. He doesn't speak, but his cough does. It shakes his chest like a drum with torn skin. You nod to the flour jar. He doesn't move, just looks at it. His lips are pale. You stand slowly, knees cracking, and scoop a handful into his sack. He bows, leaves. You know he won't be back tomorrow. The cough is worse. The city has no cure for it, only dirt. The fire is lower now, and you add the last of the dung discs. The smell is sharp, bitter. It stings your eyes worse than usual. You blink until the blur clears. Then you kneel again, shaping the final dough balls of the day. Your fingers feel heavy. Each movement requires thought, control. One slips from your palm and lands in the ash. You don't bother brushing it off. Just press it flat and stick it to the oven wall. Ash is flavor now. You glance outside. The sun is high. The street buzzes with heat. Someone screams, distant. A cart rattles past, its wheels warped, groaning. You know the sound well. Wood dying beneath weight. You close the door again. Let the dark swallow you. The fire pops once more. You reach for a cloth, wipe your hands, then stop. The cloth is stiff, crusted. It smells worse than the air. You throw it aside and wipe your hands on your thighs. You sit. You breathe. You press your back against the wall and listen to the crackle of baking crust. There is no voice in your head, no thought of future or past, only the weight of the present, dense and unmoving. You close your eyes. Behind your lids, the red glow of the fire pulses, constant, waiting. It always waits, even when you don't, even when the rest of you begins to drift away. The dough is rising, and still the fire waits. The city beyond the bakery grows louder by the hour. Cries from the market mix with the clatter of pottery and the low murmur of argument that rarely fades. But inside your walls, the sound is always the same. Fire, breath, footsteps on dry brick. You exist in a place that never changes, never truly cools. The outside world shifts, rulers, seasons, sicknesses. But inside the bakery, everything follows the same rhythm, as if time moves in circles rather than forward. You pick up a half-loaf from the cooling mat. Its edges are hard. The crust flakes in your palm, revealing the brittle interior. You chew without desire. There is no hunger left in you, just the memory of needing to eat. Your mouth works slowly, your jaw stiff, and each swallow scrapes your throat as if the bread were gravel. A shard of stone from the grinding slips between your teeth. You wince, spit it out into your hand. It's small, harmless, but it could have broken a molar. You toss it into the corner. There are dozens there already. Discarded bits, tooth chippers, the overlooked damage of daily work. The heat has seeped into your clothes. Your tunic clings like second skin, stained black at the armpits, crusted at the cuffs. You've washed it once in the last month, maybe twice. Each time the water turned gray, then black, then gone. The fibers never lost their smell. They carry the scent of sweat, smoke, and old dough. You scratch your shoulder. A rash has started there, rough and raised. You pull the collar aside to look. Red welts snake along your skin, probably from the ash, or the fleas, or the way you never stop moving. Another knock. You rise slowly, joints resisting again. It's a man this time. Lean, sharp-faced, with a sack slung over one shoulder and an oilcloth parcel in his hands. He offers the parcel. You unwrap it slowly. Inside, 2 onions and something wrapped in a vine leaf. Meat, maybe. Or fish. You don't ask. You give him 4 loaves, 1 fresh, 3 old. He doesn't complain. He nods and turns away. You watch him go, fingers still sticky from the leaf oil. You wipe them on your apron, adding another layer to what's already there. The fire is dying again. You crouch beside it, stir the coals. The embers resist. You blow gently, coaxing the glow, feeding it a strip of bark you saved from a broken basket. It curls in the flame, blackens, then disappears. You add a bit more flour to the bowl, just enough for 3 more loaves. Your hands are slow now. Your shoulders ache. But the motion is familiar. So familiar it feels like it belongs to someone else. You shape the dough, flatten it, press it against the oven wall. The heat kisses your knuckles. You don't pull away. The skin on your hands is dark now, not from color but from age and burn. You remember when they were softer long ago, before the flour lived beneath your nails, before the cracks became permanent. They used to tremble when you needed. Now they don't tremble at all, just ache, quietly, all the time. A fly lands on the edge of the mat. You wave it off. It returns. You crush it with your palm. The body sticks briefly before falling to the floor. You don't move to clean it. You watch the bread swell in the oven. It darkens quickly, too quickly. You pull it free. One edge is scorched. You leave it on the pile anyway. You sit again. The wall is warm at your back. You close your eyes just for a moment. The smell of baking is everywhere. The fire breathes softly. You listen to it, feel it in your chest. You are tired, but the fire is not. It never is. The heat remains, and still the fire waits. The light fades without warning, swallowed by clouds that drift like bruises across the sky. A storm threatens, though no one says it aloud. The city murmurs differently now. The shuffling of feet grows hurried. Shutters creak closed. Vendors speak in sharper tones. But inside your bakery, nothing changes. The walls hold heat. The fire smolders, obedient and eternal. You sit near the oven, legs stretched out. one hand on your ankle where a boil has formed. It's tender to the touch, red around the edges, pulsing with pressure. You don't have anything to lance it, not yet. You try to stand, but your body resists. So you stay seated, head tilted back against the wall, eyes half closed. The ceiling beams above you are cracked, streaked with soot. One drips slowly when it rains. Not enough to ruin the bread, just enough to remind you that the roof is dying, like everything else here. You shift your weight and feel the mat beneath you crumble slightly. The straw is nearly gone. You make a note to refill it. Then forget the note. Then forget what you were thinking about entirely. Your breath comes shallow now, not quite wheezing, but close. The smoke never really clears from your lungs. It's lived there too long. You remember once being able to sing. A boy's song, high and reedy, hummed while carrying sacks. But that voice is long gone, burnt away like kindling. All that remains is the rasp and the silence that fills the spaces between your words. You don't miss singing. You only remember that you once did. A sharp sound outside, wood splitting. You flinch, instinctively glancing at the door. No one comes. Probably a crate breaking in the market or a cartwheel giving way. The city is full of small destructions, each one unnoticed. You rise with effort, your knees shaking under you. You approach the last of the dough, now overproofed and slack. It spreads like porridge when you lift it. Useless for a proper loaf. But it will cook. You press it flat with shaking fingers and slap it against the oven wall. The heat catches it, makes it sizzle. Steam rushes upward. You lean away just enough to avoid the worst of it, but the edge still stings your cheek. A thin burn. You touch it, feel the skin bubble slightly. It will harden by morning. You don't have salve. You don't have clean water. You don't have time to care. You pull the loaf from the wall. It tears. Half remains stuck. You scrape it off with the flat edge of a stick, add it to the pile. The scent is sharp. Overcooked crust, sourdough, and the faint acid note of ash. You sniff once, then stop. Your nose has bled too many times this week. The air is too dry, or too full of ghosts. You sit again, shoulders hunched. Rain begins, just a whisper on the roof at first, then louder. Drops sneak through the seams, tapping onto the flower shelf. You move the jar beneath the table. A dry place for now. You don't cover it. The cloth you used for that was burned 2 days ago. Accidentally. You had nothing else to stoke the morning flame. Your hands rest in your lap. The fingers twitch now without your asking. You look at them. The nails are almost black. You press them together gently, feeling the throb in your nail beds. You wonder, idly, how long before they fall off. You've seen it happen to others. Cold, fire, infection. They don't care what caused it, only that it ends the same. The storm grows, the fire lowers. You reach to stir the coals. You whisper to them. Not words, just breath, just the hum of need. The red glow returns faintly. It answers you, quiet, reluctant, but alive, for now. You close your eyes again, and still the fire waits. The storm continues through the night. The wind claws at the walls, slipping through cracks with cold fingers. Rain seeps under the door, tracing muddy veins across the floor. You place a brick against the threshold to slow the water's advance, though it only delays the inevitable. Moisture is already rising from the ground. The clay bricks beneath your feet turn soft, betraying their age. The air is heavy with the smell of wet ash, damp bread, and rot. You move slowly through the room, gathering the usable loaves into a basket woven from old reed rope. The handles are frayed. One snaps as you lift it, sending the loaves tumbling to the floor. You kneel, bones grinding in your knees, and retrieve each piece. A few are splashed with rainwater. You wipe them on your apron. It's not cleanliness that matters, just the illusion of care. Outside, no one comes. The street is silent except for water and wind. You sit on the stool beside the oven and rest your elbows on your thighs. The fire is low. It shrinks away from the cold, curling into itself like a sick animal. You feed it one last piece of broken wood, a slat from an old door frame you found weeks ago. It sizzles as it catches. The flame hesitates, then grows. You don't watch it. You know its ways too well. Your skin itches, not from heat, but from the damp. The rash on your shoulder has spread. You scratch it through your tunic, then stop as your nails catch on something wet. You pull your hand away. In the dim light, the fingers glisten red. You wipe them on the wall behind you. One more stain among many. Nothing here stays clean. Not your hands, not your conscience, not even the air. You think of the street outside, the mud curling around people's feet, the sound of sandals slipping on stone. You remember once running through that same mud, chasing a falling basket of figs. You caught it. Your mother scolded you for bruising the fruit. She didn't thank you, but that was the last time you ever tasted fig. You remember the sweetness now, though not the words spoken, only the juice running down your chin. That moment lingers longer than anything else. A rat scurries across the far side of the room. It pauses, nose twitching, before darting beneath the flower shelf. You consider throwing something, but you don't move. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. You once tried to trap them. Spent an entire morning building a box trap with rope and old nails. Caught nothing but a broken toe when the box fell on your foot. You still limp slightly when the weather changes. The rain drums harder now, beating the roof like fingers on stretched hide. You close your eyes and count the seconds between each drop that falls through. 1, 2, 5, another leak. You mark it with your ear. You'll need to patch that section, if you can find enough dry straw, if the market still trades it, if the river doesn't flood again. You rise with a grunt, walk to the wall, and place your hand flat against the warm brick. You feel the fire's breath on the other side. It's a thin warmth. Temporary, but it's there. You close your eyes and lean into it, letting the heat press into your cheek. The bricks are rough, soot-streaked, but familiar. They've held you up more times than you can count. The bread lies in the basket, waiting. The fire huddles low, waiting. And you, still breathing, still aching, still hungry in places no bread can reach, wait too. Not for relief, not for rest, just for the next moment to pass, and the next. And still the fire waits. When morning breaks, there is no golden light, no warmth spilling across the floor. Only the dull return of gray through a sky soaked in leftover rain. The roof still leaks. One drop falls every 7 seconds onto the same spot near the flower shelf, forming a shallow crater in the dust. You have counted the seconds. You do so again now, out of habit, out of nothing better to do. You kneel beside the oven. The coals are barely alive, their glow hidden beneath a crust of white ash. You prod them gently with a stick. They give off a faint warmth, reluctant, half asleep. You blow into them until your lips burn from the dry air. Slowly the orange returns, weak but present. You feed the embers strips of old cloth, twisted tightly to burn longer. The cloth curls, blackens, vanishes. The fire, like everything else here, takes without thanks. Your limbs protest every movement. A dull ache spreads from your hips to your spine. The left side of your back spasms when you lean. You rub it absently as if you could knead the pain out like dough. It doesn't help. Nothing does. You are stiff with sleep you didn't earn and fatigue you never escaped. The mat was wet during the night. Rain seeped through the floor. Your bones remember every drop. You mix the morning batch. The flour is low again. You stretch it with crushed millet, dry and sharp, and mix in water until the dough turns the color of dried mud. It clings to your fingers, then peels away in long strands. You knead with care, trying not to think. Thinking makes it worse. Better to let the hands do the work, as they've always done. A knock at the door. You pause, wait. The knock comes again. Softer, slower. You open it to find a woman wrapped in 3 layers of cloth, none of them clean. She holds a clay bowl with something inside. You don't ask what it is. You reach for a smaller loaf from yesterday's pile and place it in her hand. She leaves without a word. Her smell lingers, something between wet wool and boiled roots. You return to the dough. It's rested enough. You press the first round flat and slap it onto the oven wall. The hiss is sharper than usual. The fire's hotter today. Good. It means less time kneeling. Your knees are swollen, and the skin around them has begun to darken in patches. You press a finger to one. It leaves a mark. You turn away. By noon, the heat is back in the air. The clouds have broken just enough for the sun to bleed through, casting a weak light across the far wall. Dust dances in it, thick and slow. You tear a burnt edge from a loaf and chew. It tastes like nothing. It sticks to your teeth. You swallow hard and sip from the basin. The water is stale but cold. Cold is rare. You drink again. Your thoughts drift to silence. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. When even your body forgets to complain. When the world shrinks to bread and breath and fire. You sit beside the oven, arms limp at your sides, eyes half closed. The fire pops softly, sending a red glow across the stones. You don't flinch. You've become part of the room now, another fixture in its fading structure. Outside, a child screams. Then silence. Then birds. Inside, the dough rises. The loaves blister. The air grows thick with flour and smoke. You close your eyes fully now, not to sleep, but to not look, to not see the cracks in the wall, or the filth on your arms, or the shape of your own feet bloated from standing. The fire breathes slow, and still the fire waits. The light fades early today, swallowed by clouds that move like bruises across the sky. Inside, the bakery darkens slowly, as though the shadows rise from the floor rather than fall from above. You light the oil lamp, its flame flickering weakly, barely strong enough to push back the gray. The smell of the oil is sharp, metallic. It clings to your nostrils. You place it near the flour jar and return to the hearth, where the last of today's dough waits. Your hands shake as you press it flat. The skin at your knuckles has split again, the wounds thin and pink and lined with flour. You wipe them on your apron and ignore the sting. There are only 3 rounds left to bake. You place the first against the oven wall. It sizzles. The hiss is softer now. The coals are tired. So are you. You lean back on your heels, spine crooked, eyes unfocused. The firelight flickers across your face. It outlines the hollows in your cheeks, the smudges beneath your eyes, the split in your lower lip that never quite heals. You rise to stretch your legs. The bones in your feet protest, the arches stiff from hours of standing. You limp to the door and open it just enough to let in the air. It's damp. It carries the scent of wet stone and animals and something sweet. Dates, maybe, or spoiled fruit from the market stalls. You don't linger. You close the door before it lets in too much cold. You turn and notice the rat again. It's bolder now. It crosses the floor in a straight line, pausing once to look at you. You do nothing. You have no strength to chase it. If it wants crumbs, let it have them. You and the rat are not so different. Each day you both return to the same place, perform the same motions, and leave with barely enough to go on. You retrieve the loaf from the oven. It's overcooked at one edge, raw at the other. You sigh, tear it in half, and place it on the stack. One of your teeth has begun to ache, sharp and deep, like a thorn embedded behind your cheek. You run your tongue over it. The gum is swollen. You consider the knife near the shelf and then look away. The second loaf hisses as you place it against the wall. You crouch again. Your knees tremble. You reach for the oil lamp and adjust the wick. The flame gutters, then steadies. You watch it dance for a while. It reminds you of something, a story maybe, or a face. But the memory slips away before it forms. The third loaf is ready. You slap it into place and sit with your back against the wall. The bricks are cool now. The fire has drawn away from them. You close your eyes. You can still hear the crackle of coals, the pop of wood resin, the faint rustle of the rat in the corner. Your fingers twitch in your lap. A draft finds its way in through the shutter. It touches your neck like breath. You open your eyes again. The dough has risen. The air smells of crust and smoke. You stand slowly, gather the 3 loaves, and place them atop the others. Your arms shake. The basket tilts. You steady it. Outside, the street is silent. The sky is dark. The night returns without question or permission. You sit once more. The fire lowers. The light dims. And still the fire waits. You wake without remembering having fallen asleep. Your body slumped in the same place, one shoulder pressed to the wall, the other arm wrapped across your chest as if shielding yourself from something long gone. Your legs are numb, folded awkwardly beneath you. When you try to move, pain flares from the base of your spine, sharp and cold, like ice splintering under skin. You grit your teeth and push up with one hand, steadying yourself against the rough brick. The fire is nearly gone. Only a faint red glows beneath the collapsed heap of blackened ash. You stare at it for a while. There's no panic, only resignation. The flame will die soon. You wonder if you will feel it when it does. You reach for the poker and stir the remains gently. Embers shift. A few sparks drift upward and vanish. You add a broken reed mat, twisting it into a bundle. It smokes before catching, filling the room with the bitter smell of old rushes. Still, the fire answers. It's quiet, but alive. You check the dough. It's barely risen. The flour was bad. You could tell when you mixed it. Coarse and clumpy, with streaks of mold along the edges of the sack. But it was all you had. The water was low, too, collected from a basin left outside during the rain. It smelled like leaves and decay. You boiled it, or tried to. The pot cracked halfway through. You used what was left. Now the dough lies limp, pale, and sticky. You press it into shape, your hands heavy. Your fingers barely respond. You force the motion. Flatten, turn, slap. You place the first round on the oven wall. It slips. Too wet. You push it back into place with the stick. It sags but holds. The hiss is weak. You sit back and breathe. The smoke curls past your face. Your eyes water. You cough. Not once, not sharply. A long, dragging cough that pulls from deep in your chest. When it ends, your ribs ache and your throat is thick. You spit into the corner. There's blood again. You don't look closely. You lean your head back and let the room sway around you. The ceiling seems farther away now, or closer. It's hard to tell. A noise outside, not a knock. Just footsteps, soft and slow. Then silence. You wait, but no one comes. You stand, balance wavering, and step to the door. You open it. The street is empty. Rain has returned, light and steady. It paints the stones black and clean. You watch it for a moment, then close the door again. The cold has followed you in. It wraps around your ankles, climbs to your knees. You return to the oven. The dough has baked, barely. The edges have begun to rise, but the center sags. You remove it carefully, trying not to tear it. The surface bubbles beneath your fingers. You add it to the pile anyway. Another misshapen disc among the others. It will feed someone, or not. You mix the next round. Your hands move slower now. The heat from the oven no longer touches your arms. You think of your bed. Not the one here, but the one from years ago, before this place. A cot with fraying rope and a wool blanket full of burrs. You remember the sound it made when you turned. A low creak, like a breath held too long. You remember your mother's voice once, saying your name before she stopped saying anything at all. You press the final loaf to the wall. The dough hisses faintly, like it's sighing. You watch it bake without blinking. The fire is low. The shadows deepen. Your breath slows. And still the fire waits. The night inside the bakery has thickened. No sounds come from the street now. No wheels turning. No hooves scraping. No voices. Only the wind moaning between the gaps in the shutters. A soft and patient song that never ends. You sit hunched near the oven, watching the red glow pulse like a heartbeat beneath the ash. Your eyes sting from smoke and sleeplessness. You haven't spoken in days. Not because there's no one to speak to, but because the voice has slipped from you, like water poured into dry earth. There's nothing left to carry sound. The final loaf cools in your lap. It is warped and sunken in the center, still steaming at the edges. You hold it with both hands, thumbs resting on the burnt crust. You do not eat it, not yet. You only feel its heat, the way it radiates gently through your fingers and into your bones. It's the only warmth in the room now. The fire has slumped low again, barely breathing. You don't feed it. Not this time. You let it rest. You listen to the coals shifting, breaking down into silence. The bread smells of ash and wet flour. Your fingers leave small dents as you press the surface. You consider taking a bite, but your mouth is dry, your lips cracked, your tongue thick. You have no water. You haven't had any since yesterday. There's a jug by the wall. You turn your head toward it. It's empty. You remember checking it, twice, maybe more. You don't remember the taste of clean water, only the murky warmth of rainwater gone sour. You set the loaf down beside you. Your hands fall into your lap. You stare at them. The nails are gone on 2 fingers, torn off slowly over weeks, not all at once. The beds beneath are purple and swollen, rimmed with black. The skin on your wrists is flaking. You scratch gently and watch it fall like flour to the floor. It gathers in the folds of your apron, a small pile, a kind of dust. You hear something behind the wall, not footsteps, not a voice, just a shift, like wood settling, or the building itself breathing through its weak foundation. The sound passes. You don't turn. You feel it, but you don't respond. There's no threat left here, nothing left to take. No one steals from a place that's already forgotten. Your shoulder leans into the bricks. They're cold now. Their heat bled out hours ago. You should move. You should prepare the flour for morning. Sweep the crumbs. Check the roof. But you don't. You don't even think about moving. The air is thick with stillness. Every motion would crack it like glass. So you sit. Quiet. Slow. You glance at the window. The shutter sways slightly, casting a shadow like a swinging arm. It flickers across the wall. Your mind tracks it, slowly. The rhythm feels familiar, like kneading, like turning a wheel. You blink once. The shape disappears. You lean forward and stretch your legs. The joints snap like twigs. Your breath catches. You cough once, then twice. Your lungs seize. You press your fist against your chest. It passes. The silence returns. You remain hunched, hands resting on your knees, eyes unfocused. You reach for the loaf beside you. Your fingers wrap around it again, still warm, still solid. You hold it to your chest. You feel its weight. You feel your own. You close your eyes and listen. The fire has fallen asleep. The air is cold, and still the fire waits. When the light returns, it does so gently, crawling across the floor in a pale, reluctant smear. It does not warm. It does not illuminate. It simply marks the passage of time as if to say, "You have survived the dark, but barely." You are still sitting, spine bowed like a broken branch, arms slack at your sides. The loaf rests near your foot now, hardened and cracked. You do not remember letting go of it. Your body is cold, not from the air, but from within. The warmth of movement has long left your limbs. Your muscles are tight, reluctant to answer your will. You try to stand and your legs buckle. You catch yourself with both hands against the floor. The stone is damp. A thin layer of condensation clings to it, left by the night's breath. You remain on your hands and knees, panting softly, as if rising from the ground demanded more than you had to give. Eventually, you rise, not with strength, but with insistence. You lean against the wall, breathing through your teeth, eyes closed until the dizziness passes. The room tilts slowly back into place. You open the flour jar. There is almost nothing left. A few handfuls, gritty and stale. You pour it into the bowl, the sound soft and final, like sand through a narrow throat. There is no water. You reach for the cracked basin, shake it once, listen to the hollow clunk of its dryness. You set it down without a sound. You scrape the walls of the jar for residue, anything to stretch the next batch. Your fingers come away coated in dust, not flour. You lick them anyway. The taste is sour. Your stomach lurches at the memory of food, not the promise of it. You push the bowl aside. The fire is gone. Not just low, not just sleeping. Gone. Cold ash slumps in the pit like gray snow. You prod it, hoping for a spark. There is none. You pull the last reed bundle from the corner, dried weeks ago in the sun and forgotten. You crush it in your hands, arrange it carefully, strike flint until the sparks fly. They dance and die. You try again, and again. Your arms tremble. Your grip falters. Finally it catches. The reed smokes, then curls inward as flame licks its edge. You lean close, protect it with your hands. You whisper to it. Not words, just sound, just breath. It grows slowly, unevenly. You feed it splinters, bark, a scrap of cloth from your sleeve. The fire returns, thin and pale, but alive. You rest back on your heels and feel it warm your face. It does not reach your chest. It does not reach your hands. But it reminds you you're not alone. You sit again, drawing your legs close to your chest. The flour bowl remains untouched. You do not mix it. You do not need. There will be no bread this morning. You watch the fire grow taller. It casts long shadows up the wall, trembling as the air shifts. Your breath clouds slightly in the cold. You hadn't noticed how chilled the room had become. The fire pushes it back, inch by inch. Your fingers flex, slow and stiff. The skin splits again at one knuckle. A drop of blood rises, small and dark. You don't wipe it away. You close your eyes for a moment, just a moment, letting the firelight press against your lids. In the silence, you hear only the whisper of flame and the slow rhythm of your breath. You do not think. You do not plan. You simply remain, wrapped in the narrow warmth of a flame that has returned. And still the fire waits. You move slower now. Even the smallest tasks drag through you like wet fabric across stone. Your feet are numb, your arms feel swollen. The air in the bakery is dense, as though every breath must pass through the weight of yesterday. The fire crackles faintly behind you, but its warmth doesn't reach your bones. It's like being watched by a candle, comforting from afar, useless up close. You gather the scraps from the previous day, hardened crusts, torn edges, burnt pieces. You place them in a wooden bowl, the one with the split down the side, wrapped in twine to hold it together. These will be today's offerings. You don't have the strength or materials to make new loaves. The flour left is not enough. The water is gone. The customers may complain, or they may not return at all. You sit on the stool, the same one that rocks slightly to the left. Your spine follows its lean. You rest your elbows on your knees, your head in your hands. For a moment, you allow your eyes to close, not to sleep. That would be too generous. Just to rest your lids, to silence the brightness. Behind them, the glow of the fire dances like a memory you once cherished. Now it flickers with the same indifferent rhythm as your own breath. Quiet, involuntary, fading. A knock. You lift your head slowly. Another knock. You rise, dragging your feet to the door. When you open it, a child stands there. A girl, barely 10, with hair tied in twine and feet wrapped in cloth. She holds a broken spindle. You stare at it. She doesn't speak. You look past her down the street. Empty, silent. She pushes the spindle toward you again. You take it, weighing it in your hand. It's useless, but it's trade. You nod, then place 2 burnt crusts in her small cloth bag. She watches you, not with hope, not with gratitude, just the gaze of someone too young to understand why hunger exists, but old enough to carry it. She turns and walks away. You close the door and listen to the wind. The fire has slumped again. You kneel beside it, adding a twist of old linen. The smoke rises thick, curling into your face. You blink through the sting, then sit back, resting on your heels. Your knees crack, loud in the silence. You press your hand to one. It feels soft, like something inside has given up trying to hold itself together. You reach for the basin, then remember. Empty. Still. You glance toward the corner where the rainwater once collected. Dry now. A spider has built a nest in the dip of the stone. You envy its stillness. A shadow passes across the floor. Not a person, just the shutter swaying in the breeze. But it startles you. For a moment your heart stutters in your chest. You lean back, gripping the stool, breath shallow. It passes. You laugh once, a dry, broken sound. Then silence again. The bread bowl remains on the counter. You stare at it. The crusts have not moved. You run your hand across the surface, gathering crumbs. You bring your fingers to your mouth and suck the grit from them. It tastes of ash and salt, enough to pretend it matters. You close your eyes. You let the smoke settle into your lungs. The ache in your back, the pull in your jaw, the numbness in your toes. They are old friends now. You don't resist them. You don't acknowledge them. You simply sit. And still the fire waits. The evening settles in without notice. The air thickens again, pressing in through the broken edges of the shutter, carrying with it the smell of damp stone and distant refuse. The world outside grows quiet, but not peaceful. Quiet like a held breath. You light the lamp with a trembling hand. The flame hesitates, then flares weakly, casting long shadows across the walls. You watch them move, stretching thin, then folding into themselves like exhausted limbs. Your hands ache more than usual. The fingers feel thick, each joint wrapped in something heavy and unseen. You try to flex them. One resists. The skin has cracked again at the base of your thumb. It bleeds slowly, mixing with flour dust to form a paste that dries against your skin. You do not wipe it away. The sensation is dull. It hardly registers. There is no dough tonight, no grain, no work. Only you and the fire and the fading heat of both. The room smells of ash and mold and something sweet that you cannot place. You breathe it in slowly, unsure if it comes from memory or rot, perhaps both. You lean back against the wall, listening for rats. They do not come. Not tonight. Even they seem to know there is nothing left. You pull the cloth from your shoulder, the one you've used to wipe sweat for years. It's stiff now, salt white in places, brown in others. You fold it into a square and press it against your knee, where the swelling has grown hard and hot. The pressure helps. Briefly. You close your eyes and count your breaths. Outside, a voice calls. Faint, male, somewhere in the street. Then silence again. You do not rise. There is nothing to say. You do not remember the last time someone called your name. You do not remember the last time you answered. The stool beneath you creaks as you shift. You feel the wood give slightly beneath your weight. One more crack and it will collapse. You stay still. The bread bowl remains where you left it. The crusts are drying out now, curling at the edges. You consider eating one. You don't. Your stomach no longer sends hunger the way it used to. Now it pulses with a soft ache that's closer to memory than desire. You place a hand over it. The warmth from your palm is the only heat it knows. The fire flickers low, barely a whisper of flame left. You crawl toward it, not out of urgency, but instinct. You reach for the last scrap of fuel, a broken slat from the flour shelf, darkened with age and mold. You press it into the coals. It smokes, then catches. The light jumps. For a moment, the room glows orange again. You hold your hands near the warmth, not close enough to burn, just near enough to feel something stir beneath your skin. You stay like that, crouched, silent, hands stretched toward the fire as if in prayer. Your breath fogs the air briefly before vanishing. You think of nothing, not the street, not tomorrow, not the aching in your knees or the tightness in your ribs. Only this moment, only this small heat in a world grown too wide and cold. You return to the wall, lean against it, eyes fixed on the last of the flames. You do not blink. You barely breathe. You are a shadow among shadows, held together by habit and soot. And still the fire waits. You wake in the middle of the night, though you never truly slept. Just drifted into a shallower version of stillness, where the mind floats but never sinks. The fire is out again. The room is darker than before, as though the night has thickened. The lamp burned itself dry and left behind a smell of scorched oil and burnt wick. You sit up slowly. The mat beneath you is damp. Your hip aches from the cold that has settled into the floor. You grope for the jug, knowing it's empty, but lifting it anyway. It feels light, hollow, like your own body. You tip it toward your mouth and catch one drop. Just one. It slides across your tongue, thick and stale. It doesn't help. You set the jug down without sound. There is no bread left. The crusts from the day before were eaten during the hours you do not remember. You recall holding one near your mouth, feeling the sharpness of its edge. You do not recall swallowing. You look toward the shelf. It is bare. Just scattered crumbs and a dead fly lying on its back. You think about brushing them into your palm, but you don't move. The shadows press against the walls. You think about lighting the fire again. You imagine your hands feeding kindling into the coals, your breath coaxing life from the embers. But there's nothing left to burn. The last stick was used yesterday. The cloths are too damp. The rushes are gone. You have your apron. You stare at it. Then fold your arms across your chest, pressing it tighter to your ribs. The silence grows larger. You listen for the rats, for the wind, for the creak of the ceiling beam. Nothing comes, not even the sound of your own breathing. You hold your hand in front of your face. You can't see it. You move your fingers slowly, trying to remember the shape of motion. You think of the river, the one that ran past your mother's house. It was shallow, full of reeds. You used to watch birds pick through the silt. Once you fell in. The water was warm. It soaked through your clothes and filled your ears. You remember the weight of it, how it made your body slow, heavy, quiet. You think of that feeling now, how soft it was to sink. The floor beneath you shifts slightly, not from movement but from memory. The bricks seem to pulse. You lay down again, curling inward. Your ribs grind against each other as you turn. Your hands are fists now, pulled to your chest. You cannot uncurl them. The nails press into your palms. You let them. Your face rests against the wall. It is cold. You imagine it's the side of a riverbank, smooth stone under your cheek. Your mother's voice, soft and blurred, calling you inside. You do not move. You stay here, eyes open in the dark. There is nothing left to do, no grain to mix, no fire to feed, no breath to waste on prayer. The room is as still as it has ever been. The walls do not speak. The oven is silent. The night stretches out like a sheet, thin and endless. You wait, not for morning, not for anything, just because it is what you've always done. And still the fire waits. The dark doesn't lift so much as thin. Morning arrives, not with light, but with less shadow. The outlines of objects begin to return. The corner of the bread shelf, the basin by the wall, the place where the rat trail crosses the floor. You blink slowly, adjusting. Your body hasn't moved in hours. Your right side is numb. When you shift, a sharpness runs down your spine like a blade drawn across cold iron. You push yourself upright. Your arms tremble. Your fingers won't uncurl at first, locked in fists from the night. You pry them open with the opposite hand. The skin is raw, the creases dusted with dried blood. You press your palms to the floor to ground yourself. It is still damp, still colder than it should be. The fire is only memory now, a smear of ash in the hearth, gray and silent. You rise to your feet unsteadily, leaning against the wall. The bricks are moist from condensation, and your shoulders stick slightly as you press against them. You step to the door, pull it open. The street is quiet, slick with dew. Mist curls along the stones like lost breath. No carts, no voices. The city is asleep or dead. You step outside, barefoot, and stand there a moment, letting the cold sting your soles. It reminds you you're still here. You walk to the alley where the water basin rests. The basin is cracked and leaning. A small puddle clings to the bottom. You crouch, dip your hand in. The water is gritty, but you bring it to your mouth. It tastes of rust and mildew. You drink anyway. 2 mouthfuls, then you stop. You carry the rest in cupped hands back inside. It drips between your fingers. By the time you reach the jar, there's barely enough to wet the bottom. But it is something. You sit beside the hearth and stir the ash with a stick. No heat, no glow, just the soft crumble of yesterday. You consider sweeping it out, but what would take its place? There is nothing to replace it. You leave it be. Your apron still hangs from the nail. You take it down and fold it in your lap. You run your fingers over the seams, remembering when they were tighter, when the fabric held shape. Now it droops like wet skin, a symbol of work undone, of tasks no longer required. You take one of the crusts from the corner, forgotten, tough, nearly black. You break it in half. The sound is sharp in the still room. You chew one side. It breaks your lip. The blood mixes with the bite. You swallow. The rest of the room stands unchanged. The shelf, the stool, the broken basket. You stare at each in turn, marking their presence, naming them in your mind like old companions. Your throat tightens. You cough weakly. The sound vanishes into the brick. You lean back against the oven, now nothing more than a hollow. Your breath slows. Your eyes half close. You feel the stillness rise again, not like sleep, but like drowning. Gentle, total, soft at first and then complete. You do not fight it. You fold into it like you have folded dough 1,000 times. Your lips part. You say nothing. You listen. The city does not call. The rats do not stir. The fire does not return. And still the fire waits. The day moves without you. Time drips like rain through a leaky roof. Slow, steady, and uncaring. You remain where you are, seated against the oven's cold mouth, legs drawn up, arms wrapped loosely around them. You have not stirred since morning. There is no reason to. No flour, no water, no hands knocking at the door, no voices calling through the street. Only the sound of your breath, and even that is growing softer. The world outside continues. You know this. Somewhere markets open. Somewhere a boy lifts a basket of figs. Somewhere a woman draws water from a well. But not here. Here the room remains sealed in stillness. The kind of silence that grows inside things. Walls, bones, ovens. You blink slowly, eyes dry. The lamp is out again. You don't relight it. You haven't the oil nor the strength. Shadows rule the corners now. A flicker of memory arrives, sudden, uninvited. The scent of sesame oil from a neighbor's stall. The sound of your brother grinding grain while humming off-key. The day he left to join a caravan and never returned. You remember standing by the door, watching the road long after he vanished. You'd baked 2 extra loaves that day. One burned, one remained untouched. You ate it 4 days later, dry and cold. You shift slightly, muscles stiff as rope left in rain. Your back protests. You lean forward, place both hands on the floor to steady yourself. The stone feels rougher now, more uneven, as if it too is giving up its shape. You stretch your legs out slowly, one at a time. The knees pop loudly in the quiet. You wince. You don't bother hiding the sound. The fire pit before you is empty. Just ash, a gray bowl of yesterday. You reach toward it, trailing your fingers through the powder. It clings to your skin like regret. You rub your fingers together, making small clouds that vanish in the air. The warmth is long gone. All that's left is the memory of heat. It lingers faintly in your fingertips, not as sensation, but as knowledge. You remember what warmth felt like. You do not feel it now. Your stomach growls, low and weak. You've eaten nothing since the half-crust yesterday. You consider the crumbs on the floor beneath the bench. You push yourself toward them. Each movement takes effort. Each breath, a negotiation. You gather what few crumbs remain, pinch them between your fingers. You place them on your tongue, gritty, dry, the taste of old flour and ash. You chew slowly as if pretending. A knock at the door, or maybe not. You wait. Nothing follows. A dream, perhaps, or a sound imagined by a mind too long left in solitude. You do not rise to check. You let the moment pass. You have learned not to chase what disappears so easily. You lean your head back again. The bricks are colder than before. A deep cold, not from weather but from disuse. Even the walls seem tired. You speak aloud, though your voice barely reaches the room. It's enough. You don't know what you mean. You don't need to. The words settle around you like dust. You close your eyes. The oven beside you breathes no more. The shadows stretch longer. The fire, long gone, has left behind its silence. And you, wrapped in the stillness of a day that asks for nothing, remain. And still the fire waits. The room dims again, though it never truly brightened. Evening has returned, slow and unceremonious. It does not enter so much as seep through the cracks, dulling the corners and softening what little shape remains. You sit without movement. Even your breath has grown shallow, barely disturbing the air. You feel the dust settle on your skin, in the fold of your neck, between the knuckles of your curled fingers. You no longer brush it away. The basket lies empty near your feet. The crusts are gone. The crumbs are gone. You no longer remember eating them. You only know they are not there. The hunger is no longer a sharp thing. It has become a cold, distant weight, like stone at the bottom of a deep well. You feel its presence, but it does not call. You glance at the shutter. It swings gently, tapping once with each breeze. The sound is soft, like a heartbeat fading. You remember once tying it closed with twine. The twine snapped last month. You told yourself you would fix it, but you didn't. And now the breeze enters and leaves as it pleases, carrying with it little pieces of the world outside. Grit, the smell of river rot, sometimes laughter from a far-off courtyard. You shift your hand toward the floor. The movement is slow, like dragging through water. Your fingers find the edge of the oven. The stone is rough, chipped where your father once struck it with the bread paddle. You remember his hands, thick and quick, always moving. He never sat still, never stopped kneading, shaping, feeding the fire, until he did. One morning, he simply didn't rise. You covered him with the apron, then fed the fire yourself. Your breath catches, not from emotion, from effort. Each inhale feels longer now. Your chest lifts with reluctance. You press a palm against your sternum. Feel the shallow pulse beneath your skin. It is there, weak, steady. You look at your hand. It does not look like yours. Too thin, too dark, the veins rising like old roots. You try to close it into a fist. It half responds, then drops. You hear something near the hearth. A rustle, a skitter. The rat has returned. You do not turn to see it. Let it search. Let it take what it needs. You have no quarrel with it. You are not enemies, just two creatures trying to outlast the same slow collapse. The light outside fades further. The line of brightness beneath the door narrows. Soon, the room will be entirely dark. You consider lighting the lamp, but the thought passes. There is no oil. And even if there were, what would you wish to see? You close your eyes. You listen. The fire speaks no longer. The room holds its breath. You are no longer certain whether you are awake or drifting. The difference has eroded. You tilt your head to the side, rest your temple against the cold wall. The brick presses into your skin. Its coolness is almost welcome, almost kind. In your mind, you see the shape of bread rising. You hear the sound of dough slapping against stone, the hiss of crust blistering, the creak of the door, the scrape of sandals on clay. Not real, just echoes, just the last movements of thought before stillness sets in fully. You do not speak. There is nothing left to say. You do not rise. There is nowhere left to go. You remain as you are, still, folded, fading, and still the fire waits. Night arrives fully now, complete and final. No stars, no moonlight pushing through the shutter. Just blackness, thick and close, wrapping itself around every object in the room. You do not light a lamp. You do not search for kindling. The fire is long gone. The oven mouth, once the heart of your days, gapes like a hollow wound in the wall. Cold ash lines its curve. You do not touch it. You sit with your back against the brick, legs drawn loosely, the cloth of your tunic stiff against your knees. Your hands rest palm up in your lap. You do not remember placing them there. The silence around you is heavier than before. Even the rat has left. No scurrying, no twitching in the grain jar, no sounds from the street. The city holds its breath as though it too has forgotten what comes next. You breathe in short, shallow draws. Your chest feels tight, but not from fear. The lungs simply no longer stretch the way they once did. You try to count your breaths, lose track at 4. Your thoughts do not come in full shapes anymore, just fragments. The smell of bread, fresh once, long ago, the rhythm of kneading, the warmth of a hand on your shoulder, though you can't remember whose, a voice murmuring something in the dark, maybe yours. Your neck tilts slightly, head leaning against the wall. The bricks are rough, pressing into your skin without comfort. But you don't shift. You don't need comfort now. You haven't needed it in some time. What you needed was flour, water, fire, the hands to keep moving, the rhythm to hold the days together. But those things faded, piece by piece. First, the grain delivery grew late. Then the water turned foul. Then your grip began to tremble. And now there is only this room, and the shape of your body within it. Your eyes remain open, not searching, not hoping, just watching the dark. There is a flicker behind your vision, not light, not memory, just motion. It passes. Your fingers twitch once. You feel the pull in your wrist, the old strain of mixing dough. Even now your body remembers the work, but the muscle is gone. The weight has vanished. Only the form remains. You hear a knock, or you think you do. Maybe your own heart. Maybe nothing. You wait. Nothing follows. The room does not change. You close your eyes. There is no pain, no fear, no hunger sharp enough to reach you now. Only the vast quiet and the stillness that rises through your limbs like sleep. You imagine the fire, not as it is now, but as it was, alive, wild, licking the oven wall, glowing with the urgency of survival. You see yourself feeding it, coaxing it, watching the bread brown and bubble, the sound of crust cracking, the steam rising from the loaves. You see your hands pulling them free, stacking them, passing them across the counter, and the fire, always breathing, always waiting. But now the oven is cold. The room is silent. Your breath slows, and still the fire waits.